Let me paint you a picture. You're 7 years old. It's Monday morning, and your mom is shaking you awake. You're exhausted, but you drag yourself out of bed, throw on your clothes, and head to a building where you'll spend the next 7 hours sitting in a chair, being told what to think, what to say, and when you're allowed to use the bathroom. Now fast forward 20 years. You're 30. It's Monday morning, and your alarm is screaming at you. You're exhausted, but you drag yourself out of bed, throw on your work clothes, and head to a building where you'll spend the next 8 hours sitting in a cubicle, being told what to do, what to say, and when you're allowed to take a break. See where I'm going with this? Here's what nobody wants to admit. Your life didn't turn out this way by accident. You weren't just unlucky. You didn't make a few wrong choices along the way. No, you were trained for this. Programmed. Conditioned from the moment you stepped into kindergarten. And today, we're going to talk about how it happened. The factory you call school. Think back to your first day of school. Do you remember what it felt like? Maybe you were excited. Maybe you were scared. Your parents probably told you that school was where you'd learn amazing things, make friends, discover who you are. But here's what actually happened. You walked into a room with 30 other kids, and everyone was told to sit down. In rows, facing forward. No talking, no moving around. Just sit there and listen to the adult at the front of the room tell you what's important and what's not. And if you didn't, if you got up and wandered around, if you asked too many questions, if you drew on your desk because you were bored out of your mind, you got in trouble. They called it classroom management. But what it really was? Behavior modification. Training you, like you train a dog, to sit still, be quiet, and do what you're told. Every single day, for 12 years straight, you practiced the same routine. Show up at a specific time, stay in your assigned spot, do the work they give you, don't question why, and definitely don't think for yourself. Just memorize what they tell you and repeat it back when they test you. You know what that sounds like to me? A job. You were practicing for a job before you even knew what a job was. The right answer trap. Let's talk about something you probably never questioned. The idea that every problem has one right answer. In school, math was simple, right? 2 + 2 = 4. The capital of New York is Albany. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Boom, done. Move on. And if you got it wrong, red X, points off, lower grade. You learned real quick that your job wasn't to think, it was to guess what the teacher wanted to hear. That's not education. That's obedience training. Because here's the thing, real life doesn't work that way. Most problems don't have one right answer. Most situations are messy, complicated, and require you to think creatively. But school never taught you that. School taught you to look for the correct response that someone else already decided on. And then they wonder why adults struggle to solve problems. Why we freeze up when we don't have instructions. Why we panic when there's no clear path forward. It's because we spent our entire childhood being punished for thinking outside the box. We learned that different equals wrong, that creativity is risky, that the safe bet is to just do what you're told and collect your gold star. Your worth in numbers. Here's where it gets dark. Do you remember the first time you got a grade? Maybe it was a spelling test. Maybe it was a math quiz. But I bet you remember how it felt. If you got an A, you felt amazing. Your parents were proud. Your teacher smiled at you. You felt like you mattered. But if you got a C, or God forbid, an F, suddenly you weren't good enough. You disappointed people. You felt stupid, worthless. That was the moment everything changed. Because up until that point, you learned things because they were interesting, because you were curious, because you wanted to know how stuff worked. But once grades entered the picture, learning wasn't about curiosity anymore. It was about performance, about proving your value, about competing with the kid next to you to see who could score higher. You became a product, and your worth was measured by a number on a piece of paper. Think about how insane that is. We took children, actual children, and taught them that their value as human beings could be quantified and ranked. We made them believe that if they didn't measure up, they were less than. And then we acted surprised when those same kids grew up to be adults who tie their self-worth to their salary, their job title, their productivity. We created that. School created that. The competition starts early. Let's be honest about what grades really taught you. They taught you that life is a competition, that there are winners and losers, that your classmates aren't your friends, they're your rivals. Because if Jenny gets an A and you get a B, that means Jenny is better than you. Remember honor roll, student of the month, class rankings? All of those things existed for one reason: to make you compete, to make you hustle, to make you believe that if you just worked a little harder, sacrificed a little more, you could be the best. And what happens when you believe that? You stop collaborating. You stop helping each other, because helping someone else means they might beat you, and you can't let that happen. Fast forward to your job. Your coworkers aren't your friends. They're competing for the same promotion you want. You can't share your best ideas because someone might steal them and get the credit. You have to outperform everyone around you or risk getting left behind. That's not a coincidence. That's exactly what you were trained to do. School didn't teach you teamwork. It taught you survival of the fittest in a rigged game. Killing the weird kid. Every kid is weird in the best way possible. Some kids ask a million questions. Some kids make up elaborate stories about dragons and spaceships. Some kids spend hours building towers out of blocks just to knock them down and start over. That's not a problem. That's genius. That's creativity. That's the kind of thinking that changes the world. But school hates that kid, because that kid doesn't follow the template. That kid colors outside the lines. That kid asks why when they're supposed to just accept and move on. So what does school do? It fixes them. The kid who asks too many questions gets told to stop disrupting class. The kid who writes creative stories gets marked down for not following the prompt. The kid who builds things gets told to sit still and focus on the worksheet. Little by little, that spark dies. That curiosity fades. That creativity gets buried under a mountain of rules and expectations and do it like everyone else. And by the time that kid graduates, they don't even remember who they used to be. They just know how to follow directions. That's what we call success. A straight-A student who never causes problems, never asks uncomfortable questions, never challenges authority. We celebrate that kid. We hold them up as the example. But what we're really celebrating is someone who learned to kill the most interesting parts of themselves.
The lie of hard work. Here's the biggest lie school ever told you. If you work hard, you can be anything you want. Did you believe that? I did. For way too long. Because here's the reality. Some kids show up to school hungry. Some kids are dealing with stuff at home that no child should have to deal with. Some kids don't have anyone helping them with homework because their parents are working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. But school treats everyone like they're starting from the same place, like the only difference between success and failure is effort. That's garbage. The kid whose parents can afford tutors has an advantage. The kid who goes to a well-funded school with new textbooks and experienced teachers has an advantage. The kid who doesn't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from has an advantage. But when that kid from a tough neighborhood can't keep up, when they fall behind, when they eventually drop out, the system says it's their fault. They didn't try hard enough. They didn't want it bad enough. No, the system failed them and then blamed them for it. And this lie doesn't end at graduation. It follows you into adulthood. Can't find a good job? Should have worked harder in school. Can't pay your bills? Should have made better choices. Stuck in a dead-end career? Should have gotten more skills. The system is designed to produce these outcomes, and then it convinces you that it's your fault for not winning a game that was rigged from the start. From desk to cubicle. So you graduate, you get a job. Congratulations. And on your first day of work, what happens? You show up at a specific time. You go to your assigned desk. Your boss tells you what to do. You complete the tasks you're given. You take your break when you're allowed to take your break. You compete with your coworkers for raises and promotions. You get evaluated based on metrics you didn't choose. Does any of this sound familiar? It should, because it's exactly what you did in school for 12 years. The bell that told you when to move, that's now your shift schedule. The teacher who gave you assignments, that's your manager. The report card that measured your performance, that's your annual review. The gold stars and honor roll, that's employee of the month. Nothing changed. You just traded one system of control for another. And the wildest part? You were so well trained that you don't even question it. You just accept that this is how life works. You wake up, you go to work, you do what you're told, you collect your paycheck, and you do it again tomorrow. For 40 years. And then you retire, and then you die. Is that really living? Or is that just existing in a cage you helped build? Breaking the pattern. Here's the thing that gets me, the thing that keeps me up at night. Most people know something's wrong. They feel it. They hate their jobs. They're tired all the time. They dream about doing something different, something meaningful, something that actually matters. But they don't change anything because they can't even imagine what else is possible. That's the real victory of the system. It didn't just control your behavior, it controlled your imagination. It trained you so thoroughly that you can't even picture an alternative. You think this is just how life is. Work, pay bills, die, rinse and repeat. But it's not. That's just what you were taught to believe. And the saddest part? When people do wake up to this, when they do see the cage they're in, what do? They put their own kids in the same system. They send them off to school, kiss them on the forehead, and tell them to work hard and follow the rules. Because deep down, they still believe it's the only path. The cycle continues, generation after generation. Victims becoming enforcers of their own imprisonment. So what now? Look, I'm not here to tell you to drop out of society and go live in the woods. I'm not saying school taught you nothing useful. I'm not even saying everyone who works in 9 to 5 is miserable. But I am saying this. You deserve to understand what happened to you. You deserve to know that the life you're living right now isn't the only option. It's just the option you were programmed to choose. And once you see it, really see it, you can't unsee it. Maybe you don't change everything overnight. Maybe you can't quit your job tomorrow. But you can start asking questions. You can start thinking differently. You can start recognizing when you're operating on autopilot, just following the script you memorized 20 years ago. And maybe, just maybe, you can make different choices for yourself, for your kids, for the people around you. Because the system only works if we keep participating, if we keep showing up, if we keep accepting that this is just how things are. But what if we didn't? What if we said no? What if we remembered who we were before someone told us to sit down, be quiet, and color inside the lines? That's the question I want you to sit with. If this hit you differently, if something clicked while you were watching this, drop a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's still sleepwalking through the script they were given, share this with them. Hit that subscribe button if you want more content that makes you think, that challenges the way things are, that refuses to pretend everything is fine when it's not. I'll see you in the next one.